Hi, my name is Caroline Poland, and I'm the founder and CEO of Poland & Associates Consulting. Today I'm going to continue with my Window of Tolerance series and talk about what we can do to widen that window of tolerance. So again, remember that window of tolerance is just that zone or range in which we can optimally function. So I want to do a quick disclaimer before we go any further to say that I am not speaking to any individual situation, and I would encourage you to reach out and work with a counselor if you would like to widen that window of tolerance, or if you recognize that you are living life a little bit more in hyperarousal or hypoarousal. And then in general, again, these are going to be some basic strategies that you could use for either option and try them out and see what might be helpful for you. One helpful strategy might be to just orient yourself. And with that, we just want to look around the room and we want to start to identify things that feel calming or secure or stable to us. So what colors feel calming to you? Is there a texture that feels steady or secure to you? Is there a person that feels good? If you walk into a room and start to train yourself to immediately look for the calm or the secure object that can kind of bring you back to that here and now moment, that might be a helpful strategy for you. As well as the basic movement of looking like that helps to work within our nervous system and helps to regulate us. We can also work to just open our body posture, and when we do that, it allows our lungs to expand as much as possible and as much oxygen to get in. And oxygen is essential for helping to decrease some of the stress hormones that we experience. And if we do that, that will help us to stay in that window of tolerance and help us to widen that window of tolerance. So with that, what we want to do is try to open our shoulders, roll our shoulders back. If you think about your shoulder blades sliding down your back a little bit, that will just help to open your body posture. You can sit with the backs of your hands on your knees in a nice open body posture. Focus on your feet in the ground and just take a nice deep breath. Or you can take your hands, and again, you're going to put the back of your hands along your back and just sit like this. And that's going to force some of that body movement. You're going to have to sit up a little bit more, and that will just let your lungs expand as much as possible and that oxygen to get deep into your lungs so that you can do some of that deep breathing, whether you want to focus on that inhale or and the nice exhale sigh. Another helpful strategy that you might use, and this kind of ties into that butterfly hug that I talked about earlier, is to take the palm of your hand and put it right here. And you're going to put gentle but firm pressure, whatever feels good to you, right like this. And this actually serves as a regulation for our nervous system. It makes us feel like we are co-regulating off of someone else, just like babies do when we're doing skin-to-skin contact. This provides some of that. And so in studies, they found that if someone sits in this posture, their breathing actually gets deeper, their heart rate slows, and those stress hormones begin to decrease. One of the things that can also help us to widen that window of tolerance or bring us out of hypoarousal or hypoarousal is to use that social engagement system that we all have in our nervous systems. So let me remind you that we are not meant to do life alone. We are made for community, and we are built for relationships. And our nervous systems are designed to co-regulate within relationship. And so if we can get into healthy relationships with other people, that can actually serve to help us stay in that window of tolerance in situations that might otherwise push us into hyper or hypoarousal. Other things that you could use are meditation or yoga. And again, you want to make sure that you're talking to your doctor before you begin any sort of exercise routine, just to make sure that that is right for your body. And then if you've experienced trauma, and remember that trauma begins to whittle away the space between stimulus and response, and it begins to shrink that window of tolerance. And that's not a failing on your part, that's just how our bodies respond to trauma. And so one way as well that we can begin to widen that window of tolerance to bring ourselves out of hyper or hypoarousal is to engage in the hard work of doing trauma therapy. And with that, we want to make sure that we're seeking a therapy that not only works with our thoughts, but works with our body and works with our emotions, works with different parts of us as well. And so a great way to do that is something like EMDR. And again, if that is something that you're interested in, I would encourage you to research that, talk to a doctor, talk to a counselor, and get information that would allow you to make an informed decision, but seek out some of those trauma therapies that are evidence-based to process that as well. So again, we want to be that very curious noticer and observer. Different things are going to trigger us. And so the anxious part of us might be triggered by one thing, and the part of us that feels depression or hopelessness might be triggered by another. And so we want to work on each of those parts' window of tolerance, as well as we want to work on our own window of tolerance. And so we want to, again, do that body scan and check in with our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions, our reactions and actions and body sensations to notice what triggers us, what gets us outside of our window of tolerance, and what actually helps us to stay in that window of tolerance. This is not every strategy that could be listed, but just a number of strategies for you to try. Be curious about yourself and keep practicing those things so that in those moments where you're perceiving a threat, you can get curious about what might be triggering you and then bring yourself back to that window of tolerance. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Poland and Associates, and my website, polandandassociates.com, and make sure that you subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss out on future videos.